Ipsos polling exclusively for Global News shows 54% of Canadians would support an election this fall, but that support comes mainly from supporters of opposition parties, with 77% of Conservative voters, 59% of Bloc voters, 53% of NDP voters, and 52% of Green voters. Only 33% of Liberal Party voters want to see an election. When it comes to the federal deficit, 55% of Canadians believe it's too large, 38% believe it's about right, and 7% say it's too small. Half of Canadians say the government should hold an election if it plans to increase spending. Half don't. But the strategy to return to balanced budgets will be key, with 78% of Canadians saying it will be a major consideration in how they vote should there be an election. The speech from the throne should be about dealing with the pandemic today rather than proposing big plans for the future, according to 73% of Canadians. But there are competing priorities when it comes to spending. 50% say the federal government should significantly invest in new social programs, even if it means a bigger deficit. And 57% want to see a universal basic income program. On childcare, 73% say the government should provide more options for those raising young children while working, and 63% agree that Canada should make fighting climate change a priority in its economic recovery plan.
Canadians are getting concerned about the size of the deficit, not only in the immediate term, but also as they start thinking forward to a potential new election. It's something that they want to have all the parties deal with. And quite frankly, you can't spend a generation or two generations talking to Canadians about deficits being bad things for them to all of a sudden turn it on their head and start to think that they're good things. So that's what all the political parties are facing right now. Canadians are looking at the current federal spending as really being about emergency relief, whether it's helping deal with the healthcare costs that are associated with fighting the pandemic, or whether or not it's the economic incentives to get people either over the hump when it comes to their own personal financial situations, or help employers hire people back. There's a lot of tolerance for that right now, but outside of that, we don't really see a lot of enthusiasm for any other big spending. Large majority among Conservative voters are really concerned about the deficit. Among Liberal voters, they're concerned, but not as intensely so. There's no real blank check with any coalition right now, electing coalition on the Canadian political spectrum that's really supportive of a big deficit.